welcome to this very special edition of Samuel Plays Brass. So today we're taking a look at quite possibly the worst instrument I've ever played. Now, I understand in saying this that there's a set of very low expectations that come with it. Perhaps I haven't tried enough instruments to really decide whether or not I've played many bad ones, but be sure that this horn is certain to blow all of those expectations out of the water. So, this is the F.E. Olds & Son Horn in F. It is the same company that made the mellophone in F that I reviewed a while back. So, can this be called a horn? Sure. It is of a remotely horn-like shape. I'm sure they got the sizing right, at least. I'm sure there's some redeeming qualities to this instrument. Can it be called a horn in F? Absolutely not. The tuning on this is some of the most abysmal I've ever heard, honestly. This thing appears to be in the key of D-flat minor, if my ear is not deceiving me. That is a D-flat, according to my tuner. Like, that's just awful. That's not supposed to be coming from a horn that is said to be in F. Now, when I got this instrument, I wasn't too displeased. I saw that the thumb rotor did not actually work. But this is a school instrument, mind you, so you can't expect too much of it. That string's not properly tied, so the linkage isn't really secure and it can't go anywhere. If you twist this knob ever so slightly while you play, you can activate it, I suppose. However, doing such is extremely inconvenient and doesn't really make much sense. Now, I didn't realize what I had gotten into until I started trying to play it. So naturally, when I picked up this instrument, I hummed an F. That's supposed to be an F. So that is close to an F, I'd say. My tuner says it's almost in tune, actually. So I played a note on it, and I thought, wow, okay, this isn't a bad instrument. I guess I'll find the scale on the way down. There isn't a scale on this thing, needless to say. Nothing works. If you try to use conventional fingerings, there is no way you can do anything. Now, with D-flat minor, you do have one arpeggio that's somewhat secure. Now, I don't know what D-flat minor would be good for, aside, perhaps, from the trumpet opening to Mahler's Fifth Symphony. I mean, it's just awful. You really can't do anything with this. Yeah, I haven't played too many instruments in my time, so it's safe to assume that this is the worst I've ever played. I've played a decent horn, and I've been able to actually play scales on it. I've been able to find the fundamental just fine. I have a good enough ear, though my ear isn't that good, to know how things work out. So even a trumpet player of my caliber should be able, in theory, to play the horn. I don't know how many people could play a horn like this with any degree of success, though. It's interesting, for sure. Every time you pick this thing up, you find something new. I mean, I found a B natural on open. Let me see if I can actually get it back. I suppose now that I think of it, that's actually normal because B natural, or I suppose C flat in this case, would be the flat seventh of the D flat minor chord. I suppose that's how it's supposed to work, but I honestly can't tell at this point because everything's so muddled on this thing. It sounds okay to someone who wouldn't know anything about how a harmonic series works or how valves work. Now, I've been able, with some success, to play an excerpt with some completely incorrect fingerings. Here is the chorale from JS Bach's Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring. Now from that you might think, oh, that's actually not too bad. Well, it's only not too bad if you can excuse everything else. That particular excerpt lent itself decently well to this thing, for the very simple reason that there's not a lot of notes to play. Now, if you take something, even like a scale, for example, let's take it from that upper octave. So that is the upper D flat. If I take a scale from there, even the upper one's not going to be very good. Like, that's not right. You can tell that there's so much wrong with that scale. And God forbid I try anything lower than that, where the partials aren't all half step apart. Like, you really cannot tell what you're playing on this thing. So, if you were to just pick this instrument up and look at it, you might not think it's that bad. Sure, it's got a lot of dents and everything's kind of just peeling off, and as I've said, the thumb rotor linkage is a bit weak, and by weak I mean completely broken. But it's excusable compared to some, namely Chinese-made instruments. However, when you actually take the time to play this thing, it's just abhorrent. Now, just some minor issues with it. Let's see what's going on here. So we've got this slide that just kind of falls out on its own. There is no compression here. If you move the slide back and forth, even if you pull it out, there's no pop. There's little to no noise. You can hear a little rush of air, which isn't right. It's supposed to make a distinct popping sound. I suppose it works. But it's essentially like one of those Getson student model trumpets. If Getson student model trumpet sounded like a dying banshee. But the slides are very loose. They don't have any sort of stopper. The slides all move by the look of it, which is a step up certainly from the school-owned King tuba that I reviewed on this channel. So that's something, I guess. Anyways, this has been the F.E. Olds & Son horn in D flat minor. Have a nice day, everyone.